Hello everyone, my name is Muris, I'm a licensed pharmacist, and welcome to Script Ed, aka Prescription Education. On this channel, we'll be reviewing various medications, mostly popular top 100 medications, going over a brief history, what is the medication, how does it work, and possible side effects to expect. And on today's episode, we're going to be going over what is Adderall. It wasn't until the early 1900s that amphetamine stimulating effects were discovered. Specifically, in 1929, a biochemist by the name of Gordon Alice rediscovered amphetamine while searching for an asthma treatment. He realized it could act as a powerful central nervous system stimulant, and by the 1930s, amphetamines were being sold under the brand name Benzedrine, first as an inhaler for nasal decongestion, and soon after in a tablet form to treat things like depression, narcolepsy, and even weight loss. Likewise, during World War II, amphetamines were widely distributed to soldiers to fight fatigue and boost alertness on the battlefield. By the 1950s and 60s, amphetamines exploded in popularity for a variety of medical and non-medical reasons. But abuse became a big problem. This led to much tighter regulations by the 1970s. Later, scientists developed mixed amphetamine salts, which we'll go over here soon, more of a refined version, which eventually became what we know today as Adderall. Officially approved by the FDA for two indications: attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, or narcolepsy. So what exactly is amphetamine, right? Which is the generic name. So let's go over into some of the biochemistry to give you an idea of what it is and how it works. So amphetamine belongs to a larger chemical group called beta-phenylethylamines. And specifically, it is similar in structure to a chemical group called catecholamines, right? And catecholamines are a group of key neurotransmitters in your brain like dopamine, norepinephrine. So phenylethylamines is the biochemical group that it belongs to. And then catecholamines, it's what it's structurally similar to, right? And this is important for mood, attention, and the stress response. So how does amphetamine exist structurally? Well, in nature and chemically induced, there are certain chemicals that exist in pairs, right? And a lot of times those pairs exist as non-superimposable mirror images of each other, which is how Adderall exists. It's an isomer, but specifically an enantiomer, a non-superimposable mirror image, sort of like your right hand and your left hand. So the right component of the chemical is the D form, the dextroamphetamine, and the left hand of your form is the levoamphetamine or L-amphetamine. So on your Adderall prescription bottle, you will see D-amphetamine mixed salt. So that's the D. The D part is the right hand, and the amphetamine part is the left hand. Even though they don't say L-amphetamine, they just say amphetamine, but they're referring to the L-amphetamine. So even though they're chemically identical, they act slightly different in the body. Dextroamphetamine, which is the right hand, right? It acts on the central nervous system, and it's more responsible for increased focus, energy, and euphoria, while levoamphetamine is more responsible for a stronger impact on physical symptoms, things like heart rate and increased blood pressure. So in combination with having two different amphetamines exist, the manufacturers also include various salts, and you will see that on your prescription bottle as well. So a salt in chemistry just means a molecule that's combined with another substance, usually some sort of acid or base. It's very rare to find a drug that exists in its free base form, and that's for various reasons. So in this example specifically, amphetamine in its free base form exists in a hard, oily substance, And that's why it's combined with a salt to make it more stable, more absorbable, and just easier to handle during the manufacturing process. With Adderall specifically, there's 4 various salts. So you have dextroamphetamine sulfate, you have amphetamine sulfate, you have dextroamphetamine saccharide, and then you have amphetamine aspartate monohydrate. And with Adderall specifically, brand or generic, this exists in a 3-to-1 ratio. So you have 3 of the dextroamphetamine with various salts, and then you have the levoamphetamine, 1 of the levoamphetamine with various salts. Now again, why do we do this? Well, it helps create a smoother onset and a longer lasting effect, so a smoother PK or pharmacokinetic profile. It can optimize absorption across various pH levels, and it makes the drug less prone to sudden spikes and crashes. So think of it like gears in a car. It uses a blend of salts to help deliver amphetamine into your bloodstream in a more balanced, steady way. So how does it work? So Adderall increases the activity of 3 different neurotransmitters, but primarily 2 of them. Mostly it's going to be dopamine and norepinephrine, and then a slight effect on serotonin. Now I'm going to talk about 3 different mechanisms of action in order. So the most important one is going to be releasing more dopamine and more norepinephrine from the nerve endings of the synapse. So this is happening in the brain. This is where you have 2 neurons connecting. So at the very end of those connections, those are called synaptic terminals. And so those neurotransmitters are being released from little vesicles from that presynaptic terminal, and then it exits and enters the synaptic cleft, which is that space between the 2 neurons. So you have dopamine and norepinephrine flooding that space. In addition, amphetamine or Adderall is also blocking the reuptake. So naturally, when you have those neurotransmitters released at some point, they will go back into the presynaptic axon terminal, but this is prevented by amphetamine. So the end result is you have more neurotransmitters in that synaptic cleft. And thirdly, it reverses the flow of these transporters in that area. So instead of pulling neurotransmitters back in to the presynaptic terminal, it actually pushes more into the synapse. Again, the net result is a higher concentration of these neurotransmitters. Also, I just want to quickly mention that it has a weak inhibitory effect on MAO, which is monoamine oxidase. It's an enzyme that is present in the synaptic cleft that breaks down certain neurotransmitters, and it weakens the effect of that. So what is the end result? So with dopamine, you have sharper focus, increased motivation, and better reward processing. With norepinephrine, you have increased alertness, faster reaction time, and more energy. And that light serotonin effect has a small lift in mood for some users. It is believed in the brains of ADHD individuals that they have a lower baseline dopamine and norepinephrine. So I'll give you an analogy. So think of the ADHD brain like a dry riverbed where the neurotransmitters are sort of just trickling through. And by taking amphetamine, it's sort of like a storm upstream that turns the trickle into a steady flowing river, right? The stronger the current helps power focus, energy, and motivation. Now, what are the side effects of amphetamine? So because Adderall increases dopamine and norepinephrine, there's very predictable side effects. Most common side effects are going to be insomnia, decreased appetite, dry mouth, increased heart rate and blood pressure, anxiety, jitteriness, which could be due to the overstimulation, and irritability and mood swings. Less common will be like headaches, potential for GI issues. You could have emotional blunting, sort of feeling flat, not like yourself. And then rare side effects will be cardiovascular events or potential for misuse, dependence, or addiction. In conclusion, I'll leave you with this. green flags and red flags to look out for. So green flags would be sort of the mild side effects. So things like dry mouth, mild insomnia, a slight loss of appetite, and mild jitteriness and anxiety. Red flags to watch out for are going to be severe insomnia, chest pain, palpitations, uncontrolled loss of appetite, uncontrolled loss of weight, thoughts of misuse, and impulsive behavior. All right, everyone. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sticking around. If you liked the video, hit a thumbs up, leave a comment. I would greatly appreciate it, as this is my first video. If you'd like me to change anything or include things in the future videos, please let me know. Otherwise, this is Script Ed, and have a good day.